Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Christina and I cover a lot of different things, different cases. Right now, I'm currently working on a documentary about the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping hoax, case, caper, plot, whatever you want to call it, instigated and directed by the FBI. There are separate cases that have been spun off from this, two different state cases. One just ended in the conviction of three men for what the government described as providing material support for DT. There are certain code words I'm going to have to use in this video due to the algorithm picking up on certain things and varying the video. So you all, I think, understand what I'm referring to. So my documentary is going to focus mainly on the federal case against six men, but the state cases are equally important due to the precedent they're trying to set of categorizing militia groups as violent criminal gangs despite no actual crime or violence ever having taken place. So that's the goal. It's to outlaw a certain kind of what should be constitutionally protected legal activity. And I think it's very important that we cover this. And this is all connected, by the way. The state cases are connected to the federal case, and it's equally as disturbing. So I want to go to an article from a local, this is a local independent journalist in Michigan who is also working on a documentary on the case. I'm not sure the focus of his documentary, if it's going to focus on the federal case or simply on the state cases. I have a feeling it's going to be about the entire case. I absolutely support his work. I encourage you guys to do the same thing. I encourage you guys to follow him and support his documentary as well. I think it'll probably be pretty different from mine, but I support it and I want you all to. You should follow him. His name is Eric Van Dusen, and he put out this article. We're going to go ahead and go through it because it is super, super important. Wolverine Watchman stigma is BS, it's unfair, it's lies, says Antrim County defendant Eric Molitor during a wide-ranging interview conducted on January 8 with this writer. Eric Molitor, he's one of the defendants in the state case right now between five men in Antrim County, emphatically disputed that he and his four Antrim County co-defendants were ever members of the Wolverine Watchmen. Molitor was reacting to a December 7 press release issued by Michigan's Attorney General under the headline, Wolverine Watchmen Bound Over in Antrim County. We will play this video real quick. This is from his interview with Mr. Molitor.
After you had your bind over hearing in December of 2022, did you see the press release that was issued by the Attorney General?
I did.
Yeah. Okay. And here, I'm going to hand it to you.
Thank you. I was going to ask.
So,
I was never a part of Wolverine Watchmen.
Well, that was my question, first of all.
Yeah, no.
And that's interesting because Barry Croft, Brandon Caserta have all asserted the same thing, that like they were never actually members of this group. Barry was never a member of the Wolverine Watchmen. He lived in Delaware. He didn't even live in Michigan. Brandon Caserta, never a member of the group. He got invited to a field training exercise, a couple of the field training exercises, but he himself was never actually a member of the group. And they know this. Let's be real and let's be crystal clear. The state, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the prosecutors, the FBI, they all know what happened here. They all know the truth. And in fact, they manipulate things to craft a narrative that is false. Knowingly lying, knowingly putting innocent people into prison. They know what they're doing, and it's on purpose. It isn't an accident. It isn't a mistake. It isn't an oversight. It isn't incompetence. It is malicious.
Hey, can you tell me the date on that?
December 7th, 2022.
And what's the title? What's the title of that?
In bright yellow, it says Wolverine Watchmen Bound Over in Antrim County. None of them were Wolverine Watchmen.
So the yellow is a highlighter. I highlighted that for myself when I was putting together a few different exhibits to
Yes.
bring with me. The defendants that were charged in Antrim County, that would be yourself, so Eric Molitor, Michael Null, William Null, Sean Fix, and Brian Higgins. Those 5 individuals. Were any of them members of the Wolverine Watchmen, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
I never was, and to my knowledge, they were not either.
So how do you feel about the Attorney General insinuating that you were a member of the Wolverine Watchmen?
The same as I do about every other aspect of them painting a narrative that's bullshit. It's unfair. It's lies.
Yeah, exactly. But they know what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. In contrast, a December 8 article published in the Traverse City Record Eagle contained the headline, Antrim Case Proceeds, Accused Kidnapped Defendants Head to Trial. Reporter Marty Link wrote in that piece that, quote, 86th District Court Judge Michael Sepka ruled prosecutors with the Michigan Attorney General's office had presented enough evidence during a preliminary hearing August 29th through September 1st to send the felony case against Molitor Null, the other Null brother, Sean Fix, and Brian Higgins to the 13th Circuit Court for trial. FBI Special Agent Henrik Impala testified during the Antrim preliminary examination that Sean Fix was the executive officer for Adam Fox's group, the Michigan Regiment of the 2nd Continental Army. This is a group that was made up by literally the FBI. An FBI informant who was a career criminal and convicted PEDO, a man by the name of Steve Robeson, inducted Adam Fox into this fake group that was created by literally the FBI. Adam didn't even know, like, you'll see in my own documentary that comes out what Adam was not aware of. So Henrik Impala, this FBI agent, by the way, he is accused of perjury in prior cases. He did not testify at either the first or second trial in the federal case. And there's a reason for that. It's because those lawyers were very skilled, and he knew if he was put on the stand, they would bring up his history of lying under oath to frame people, innocent people. It's disgusting. He went on to testify that Eric Molitor, William Null, Michael Null, and Brian Higgins were not members of the Wolverine Watchmen. Molitor's misgivings about being labeled a watchman has been vexing him since his arrest October 7th of 2020, after he allegedly provided material support for T and possessed a instrument during the commission of a F. He believes that Michigan Attorney General Dana Nassel and her underlings have purposely been, quote, painting a narrative that's BS. Over 2 years, I've been silent while they run my name through the dirt, Molitor opined a few days after his interview. And that's the thing. They have the megaphone. Moreover, they control everything, just like they did in the federal case at both trials. What people need to understand about the legal system is that the government controls all of the evidence, or the state in this case. They control everything, all of the evidence that the judge and the jury get to see. Okay, they control everything. They can suppress certain things or not bring in certain things. They can bring in things that they want to bring in. They literally cherry pick different things, sew it all together into a quilt, and present a false narrative. And the thing is that people ask, well, how could these guys get themselves in this situation? Or they assume that if there's pictures of them posing with firearms looking very scary, that they must have done something, right? Oh, for them to get raided or for this to go through the legal system, they had to have actually done something. But I want to suggest to you that it's actually really easy to craft a false narrative if you have certain things that you have obtained over a period of over a year that paint somebody in the worst light possible. Excuse me, I'm incredibly tired and exhausted. It's easy to paint a false narrative that way. So if you have men that were engaged in what they believe to be legal, lawful, defensive firearms training and medical training, you can take certain little clips and images that look big, scary, and say, oh, look, they were doing something, they were planning something, that's why they were doing this. When really it's the exact opposite. If you remember what was happening in 2020, especially in Grand Rapids, there were riots that were occurring, there were businesses being looted, people being pulled out of vehicles and assaulted, and these men, in their mind, were thinking, hey, I want to make sure that I am able to defend myself, my family, my property, and maybe even other people from being hurt. And that was the goal of the training. It was never to do any kind of plot, you know. And then what ended up happening was the government was giving them alcohol and marijuana, getting these guys together, 20, 30 guys sitting around. They start, you know, doing what men do, trying to look tough, trying to impress one another, talking smack. But that's all it ever was. You can go through the evidence and you'll never see anyone actually agreeing to a conspiracy, because it doesn't exist. And if they had that evidence, if they had a recording of these guys agreeing, they would have played it. You would see it everywhere. It would have been splashed all over the news. Oh, listen to these guys talking about this. You don't hear that. You hear a drunken, stoned Adam Fox saying, yeah, we're going to get that Bee Whitmer. We're going to fly her over the lake on a kite. This was never serious, okay? But it's very easy to paint a false narrative, and I want people to understand that. Okay, so let's see. Evidence presented during the Antrim County preliminary examination established that Molitor, confidential informant Big Dan Chappell, and Adam Fox conducted daytime surveillance of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's Elk Rapids vacation home on August 29, 2020. Molitor, during his January 8 interview, claimed that he feared for his life when he was in the backseat of C.I. Dan's truck and Fox handed him a phone, instructing him to take a slow-motion video of Whitmer's home. He acknowledged he consumed marijuana with Fox on that day, but said he didn't believe the controlled substance influenced his decision-making. On August 20... Yeah, and that's the other thing. These guys were scared of Dan, who, this FBI informant who portrayed himself as like an operator, right? A military veteran who was he claimed he was part of the team that rescued American sniper and hero Chris Kyle, you know? He portrayed himself as being like a tough guy, and he was the actual leader of the Wolverine Watchmen. He was... there was a vote taken, and they wanted to make him their COO, or their CO, their commanding officer. And he said, no, I don't want to be the commanding officer. But so he was the number 2 in command, but he effectively was the leader, and everybody saw him that way. Everyone wanted to please him. And it was actually Dan that was suggesting and pushing these things. And you had impressionable, vulnerable people who didn't want to let this man down, who had befriended them, who they thought the world of and called dad. It is so disgusting what happened here. On August 23rd, 2022, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Michigan issued a press release announcing that, quote, Grand Rapids, a federal jury today convicted 2 men charged in connection with a conspiracy to kidnap the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. Adam Fox of Wyoming, Michigan, and Barry Croft Jr. of Bear, Delaware, were found guilty of conspiracy and conspiracy to use WMDs against person or property. Fox was subsequently sentenced in December to 16 years in federal prison, and Croft was sentenced to over 19 years. You know, there's not even any phone calls between Barry Croft and his alleged co-conspirators. If you're plotting to carry out a kidnapping of a sitting governor, you would think that you'd have to take steps to, like, carry out this plot, right? That there'd be some communications with you and your so-called co-defendants of you actually planning or plotting something. Where are the phone calls? Where's any kind of evidence that these guys were planning anything? It doesn't exist. I can tell you that right now. And what does exist will shock you. The slow-motion video taken by Molitor in August of 2020 was among approximately 100 exhibits that were admitted as evidence during the Antrim County preliminary examination. All of those exhibits that were presented in open court were sought by this writer through a FOIA request submitted to Michigan Attorney General's office in September of 2022. A lawsuit seeking their disclosure is currently pending in Michigan's Court of Claims. The Wolverine Watchmen have been in the public eye since October 8th of 2020. That was the infamous day when Attorney General Nessel held a joint press conference with Department of Justice attorneys, the FBI, Michigan State Police, where she outlined the numerous charges her office had filed against 7 individuals in Jackson and Antrim counties.
I'd like to announce the following preliminary charges pursuant to the Michigan Anti-Terrorism Act against 7 individuals, all of whom are now in custody, linked to the...
Oh, this is a really good point. Michigan has a very unique anti-T law that was passed in the wake of 9/11 that is very unique to that state. That is something that you all should look into.
militia group Wolverine Watchmen and associates of Wolverine Watchmen. The individuals in custody are suspected to have attempted to identify the home addresses of law enforcement officers in order to target them, made threats of violence intended to instigate a civil war, and engaged in planning and training for an operation to attack the Capitol building of Michigan.
Interesting. Where's any of the evidence for that? Like, where's any of the proof that any of that happened? I can tell you right now it doesn't exist because it didn't come out in the federal case. They said that they saw these threats inside these group chats, but presented no actual evidence to back it up. Huh. Isn't that interesting?
And to kidnap government officials, including the governor of Michigan. So we've issued the following charges against the following.
And you'll notice how the story changes from the first day that the guys were arrested throughout the discovery, how it changes over time. The narrative continuously changes. There isn't really a set story here. She's saying numerous government officials were going to be kidnapped, including Gretchen Whitmer. There's no evidence for that. They didn't even assert that at the federal trial. So it's like, what are y'all talking about? This is the problem with this. How do you send men to prison for 20 years based on what is literally lies?
Following individuals. Sean Fix, age 38, of Belleville, charged with 2 felony counts, providing material support for terrorist acts, a 20-year felony, carrying or possessing a firearm during the commission of a felony firearm. Eric Molitor, age 36, of Cadillac, charged with 2 felony counts, providing material support for terrorist acts, and carrying or possessing a firearm during the commission of a felony firearm. Michael Null, age 38, of Plainwell, charged with 2 felony counts, providing material support for terrorist acts, and carrying or possessing a firearm during the commission of a felony firearm. William Null, of Shelbyville, charged with 2 felony counts.
I can't even listen to the lies because it disgusts me. Nessel's office also issued a written press release October 8, 2020, which reiterated that in total, 19 state felony charges were filed by the Attorney General against 7 individuals known to be members of the group, the M Group, Wolverine Watchmen, or associates of the Watchmen. On December 8, 2020, this writer emailed the following inquiry to the Michigan Attorney General's press office, Assistant AG Dodamani, Bill Ralston, John Pallas, FBI Special Agent Henrik Impala, and all 5 of the Antrim County defendants' attorneys. Good morning. The Michigan Department of Attorney General issued a perplexing press release yesterday. The headline exclaimed, Wolverine Watchmen bound over in Antrim County. The AG's press release further asserts that, quote, in total 19 state felony charges were filed by Nessel against 7 individuals known to be members of the group or associates. FBI Special Agent Henrik Impala was the only witness that testified during the first 3 days of the Antrim County preliminary examination held in August regarding the prosecution of the Null brothers, Fix, Higgins, and Molitor. The following are excerpts from the August 29 testimony. Ms. Dodamani, tell me what the Watchmen are. Impala. So this is a man, keep in mind, who has lied under oath in prior cases, perjured himself, and faced no repercussions for that. He says, so the Watchmen are a self-styled anarchist organization out of Jackson County, Michigan. They are a group that's got a vetting procedure, membership qualifications. Once you become a member, there are certain expectations. It has grown to as large as 45 members at one period of time. And plus, so Mr. Sean Fix, seated in the middle, he was the executive officer, that's XO, for Adam Fox's group, the Michigan Regiment of the 2nd Continental Army. And he, Miss Dottamani says, I'm sorry you said Adam Fox. He's one of the ones we heard in the clips, correct? Impola says, yes. So Adam Fox is right here. And then Sean Fix right next to him is his XO, his executive officer. Dottamani and Mr. Fix. Who is Mr. Fix to Mr. Fox? Impala, he's the executive officer. His XO is second in command. The following are excerpts of Impala's August 30th testimony during Cross. Mr. Nunzio, okay, thank you. And so, now the Null brothers, Mike and Bill, were not watchmen, correct? Impala, correct. The following are excerpts from Impala's August 31st testimony. Mr. Naughton, and you have not collected any information that Higgins was a member of the Watchmen, have you? Impala, that's correct. Now, some of your testimony was that Fox referred to Mr. Fix. Fox referred to Fix as Fox's EO, XO, his executive officer. Impala, yes. Mr. Barnett, was Eric Molitor ever in the Watchmen? Impala, no, sir. Mr. Siver, Mike Null was never a member of the Watchmen, correct? Impala, correct. And he says, I would appreciate it if each of you would provide comment and clarification on the AG's assertion yesterday in a press release that insinuated the Null brothers, Sean Fix, Brian Higgins, and Molitor were all members of the Watchmen. Were any of the Antrim County defendants ever members of the Watchmen? If they were not, is the AG going to issue a retraction regarding that assertion published in yesterday's press release? No, of course not. None of the recipients of the above email have ever responded to the request for comment. However, this writer video recorded FBI Special Agent Heinrich Impala's preliminary examination and testimony and some clips relevant to the assertions provided below. You'll see Dottamani here. She's now been promoted to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and Special Agent Fat Ass Impala, the liar, the perjurer. Well, I guess that didn't happen. That didn't play the way I wanted it to play. Free! I apologize, guys. I'm not sure why that didn't play. Oh, it must be linked. Starting at 1:40 in the video. Let's see if we can get that to work. I doubt it, though.
I'd like to announce the following preliminary charges pursuant to the Michigan anti...
Tell me what the Wolverine Watchman...
felony firearm.
Tell me what the Wolverine Watchman is.
So the
Look at this
Wolverine
scumbag, this
are
liar.
a self-styled anarchist organization out of Jackson County, Michigan. They're a group that's got a vetting procedure.
This is the FBI, guys. Like, this is your average Fed, lying scumbag, perjures himself numerous times, contradicts things he said in the first and second federal case, has committed perjury in prior cases. Like, this is what you're dealing with.
Membership qualifications. Once you become a member, there's certain expectations. It's
like what?
grew to as large as 45 members at one period.
According to who?
Now, as a group, you said, did you open an investigation into specific individuals in that group in March of 2020?
Yes, I did.
Why did you open investigations at that time?
Well, we received a citizen complaint about violence that the group was planning.
From who? This is the lie. This is bullshit. That's not what happened. Steve Robeson was made an informant in October of 2019, well before the official investigation began. He was targeting these people. He was given a database by the FBI of people they wanted to target. This is a lie. What he's going to say right now, it's a lie.
That the group had organized, they were vetting people, they were bringing people into encrypted chats, and they were planning no-knock warrants on police officers' homes in the...
What? No-knock warrants on police officers' homes. Does anyone question the stupidity coming out of this man's mouth? Where's the proof for any of this? Oh, that's right, there isn't any. Oh, whoops, we just don't have it. Hee hee ha ha.
Downstate area. So Mr. Sean Fix, seated in the middle, he was the executive officer, that's XO, for Adam Fox's group, the Michigan.
The group that the FBI told him he was part of, the one that Steve Robeson, an FBI informant, inducted him into and made up out of whole cloth, the one the FBI told him was his little group. They didn't even have a real group. Like, this is such nonsense. And they know this. That's what makes me so angry. They know the truth. He's out here outright lying.
Michigan Regiment of the 2nd Continental Army. And
I'm sorry, you said Adam Fox, he's one of the ones we heard in the clips, correct?
Yes, so Adam Fox is right here, and then Sean Fix, right next to him, is his XO, his executive officer.
Thank you.
So the Wolverine Watchman, for all intents and purposes, was on a watch group by the Bureau in the beginning of 2020, if I understand that.
So it's a case-by-case basis that Terrorist Screen Center makes an evaluation. So the Wolverine Watchman as a whole wouldn't allow you to go on the watch list. It would be each case agent for each subject. So for instance, Joe Morrison and Pete Musico, I believe they were listed in the KST database as individual subjects based on the individual threat assessment, not because of their membership in the Watchman.
The interest of the Wolverine Watchman by the Bureau was what in the very beginning?
Well, so the very beginning, there was individual case subjects.
This is a lie.
Including Joe Morrison and Pete Musico. So those were domestic terrorism cases in which we were looking at the explosives and federal weapons violations.
Okay. Now, the Knoll brothers, Mike and Bill, were not Wolverine Watchmen, correct?
Correct.
You had a chance as the lead investigator of this investigation to investigate Mr. Higgins, correct?
Well, there was a separate case agent who was assigned to investigate Mr. Higgins. So that case agent would have had the duty of being the OIC, so to speak, or looking at all the specifics related to Mr. Higgins. So I was the overall case agent on the Wolverine Watchman. So I was responsible for what was going on in Michigan pertaining to the Watchman.
And you were aware of the investigation that was happening with Mr. Higgins by the individuals that you mentioned yesterday, correct?
Yes, I was aware of it.
You were kept abreast of that.
Yes.
And you have not collected any information that Mr. Higgins was a member of the Wolverine Watchman, have you?
That's correct.
Is Eric, or was Eric Molitor ever in the Wolverine Watchman group?
No, sir.
Have you ever investigated?
I have a list, okay? I have a sheet of 45 members where they claim, oh, the Watchman swelled at one point to 45 members. Each of those guys who he says wasn't a member of the Watchman, they're listed on this sheet created by the FBI as members of the group. It's fucked up. So they're either lying then when they made that sheet, and I will have that in my documentary for everybody to see, or he's lying now. Which is it? Well, he's perjured himself in other cases, so why should anyone believe a word that comes out of this man's mouth? Oh, that's right, we shouldn't. On October 26, 2022, Nessel's office issued a press release announcing members of the Watchmen convicted on all charges. That release reported that, quote, 3 members of the Watchmen were found guilty on all charges by Jackson County jury. Attorney General Dana Nessel announced today. Morris and Bellar Musica were convicted of gang membership, a 20-year felony that may be served as a consecutive sentence, providing material support for T acts, carrying or possessing a thing during the commission of a thing, a 2-year mandatory prison sentence to be served consecutively. Absolutely ridiculous. So they're now calling militia groups gangs. I want everyone to understand that. They're now going to outlaw the lawful constitutional right of a militia group. It's disgusting. After a sentencing hearing was held in the Jackson County Circuit Court December 15, 2022, Kara Berg reported in the Detroit News that Musica 45 received the most severe punishment, getting sentenced to 12 to 20 years, with sentences for 3 charges running consecutively. Morrison, 28, was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, with sentences for 3 charges running consecutively. He received 4 to 20 years for gang membership. 4 to 20, if a gang that committed no actual violence or did anything criminal. 4 to 20 years for providing material support for T and blah, blah, blah. Bilar was sentenced to 7 to 20 years in prison. He received blah, 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 blah. No one has disputed Jackson County convicts Musica, Morrison, and Bellard were members of the Watchmen. What is clearly in dispute is the accuracy of the assertion made by Nessel's office when they claimed that these other men, were members of that group. The Antrim County Circuit Court's online database indicates that the 5 defendants have a pretrial hearing that was scheduled for yesterday via Zoom. The database showed the office court had received a motion from the Michigan AG's office entitled the People's Motion for Joinder and Brief in Support, which is seeking to combine the trials of all 5 men. Below are screenshots of several of the Watchmen press releases that are ordered by date with hyperlinks to the original sources. So disgusting. It is awful. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing that no one seems to care, that these people just lie, and nothing is done about it. So that actually happened. We had that hearing over Zoom. It was just a preliminary hearing. Now, initially, the judge Sepka had sealed all of the discovery from not just the public, but from members of the press as well. And apparently just today, that order has been revoked. And apparently we're now all going to be able to see the discovery, which is how it should be. We're supposed to have freedom of the press, and we're supposed to be able to have access to the record. You can't just hide the evidence. If you claim that somebody engaged in this big conspiracy, but you have to hide all of the evidence, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. So anyways, as you guys know, this is becoming basically like a full-time job for me to cover this. I'm trying to do the state cases as well. It's all so important, but I'm spending a lot of my own money I don't have for this. I'm traveling this weekend, so I will be gone out of town filming for the documentary. And when I come back, we're going to be publicly releasing the trailer on the official YouTube account for the documentary, which is K&K Film Official on YouTube. You should make sure that you go there and subscribe to it. We're going to release the trailer for the documentary on January 31st, so the last day of this month, and I really need you guys to share it and try to find other people, other bigger name media outlets, and tag them in it, send them the trailer, ask them to have myself or Brandon on, or both of us, to talk about the documentary and to talk about the case, because it is really important. We cannot allow them to get away with this, because people don't understand the precedent that is being set and why you can't just allow the federal government and the FBI to manufacture fake cases like this of DT. It's unacceptable. And if it was your brother, if it was your dad that this happened to, you would want somebody like me out there fighting to get the truth out and fighting for justice for these guys. And you're going to see exactly what happened here, and what you're going to learn is going to literally turn your stomach, because they knew what they were doing. They manufactured this. They continue to do it. And that's terrifying. We're supposed to live in a country where we have freedom. We should not have to live in fear of a federal government framing people. That's literally what it really comes down to. More than entrapment is literally framing, taking things out of context, not allowing the jury to hear what was said before and what was said after, getting people drunk and asking them hypotheticals, and then taking their response to a hypothetical and using that to say, see, look, they wanted to do something bad or whatever. It is so wrong. It is so wrong. And this entire thing is so wrong. And we need to ask ourselves, why is there so much discovery still under protective seal right now in the federal case when that case is over with? Why are they still hiding that? It boggles the mind. And we also need to get our elected officials involved in opening an investigation into the conduct of not just the FBI, but the Attorney General's office as well, because they were aware the entire time. You know, people don't know that. There was communication back and forth between the FBI, the Attorney General's office. They were planning the entire thing. They had to give the sign-off to have planes flying overhead at 15,000 feet following people, like Barry as he's driving his truck, going to work, taking his kids to school every day for an entire year. They're watching him. He does nothing. He commits no crimes. And they continue to investigate him. They send informants to him to introduce him to these other guys. It is he never would have met his co-defendants were it not for the FBI introducing people. That is not you, the FBI, organically coming across a plot already in motion. It is them literally doing everything they can to try to make it happen. And when it was clear it wasn't going to happen and none of these guys were on board with it, and they make statements saying, we're not okay with kidnapping, we're not offensive, we're defensive, those statements are ignored, and they continue. These informants continue to try to push for criminal activity. And there's a lot that you guys don't know that I can't disclose now that will come out in the documentary. And I think that it should be shocking to everybody, not just people who are more right-leaning, but quite frankly, every single American citizen that cares about justice, that cares about not having an out of control federal agency targeting innocent people and literally framing them for crimes that they didn't commit. That should be important to everybody. It shouldn't really be a political thing where people feel like they have to take sides. No, it's unacceptable, period. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and the update on the state case. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think of this. I think it's going to be going to trial in the summer. It might be sooner than that. I'm not sure. I haven't really been able to keep track of it, but I will try to, and I'll try to keep everybody posted and updated on that. And just, support your girl if you can help out in any way. I do appreciate it. This is literally like my full-time job, so. Whee!